And
you got Popovich with the Spurs.
Yeah, I mean, all these examples you can go to, and in every sport too. But if you look at the Nick Saban-led teams, the reason that there wasn't a lot of losing to unranked teams, except like you mentioned, there's a Tennessee, there's a slip up here and there all the time. But you do have this energy from the highest level coaches that they keep you on this like track, even when like the team's going to steer away a little bit, or the team's going to be youthful, or the team's going to shift their focus. The coach can like pull that team back to the track. It's not to say this new coach can't. It's his first year. They're a couple games in. They lost by 3 points, but that ability as a coach is the number one ability to be able to keep a job long term, to be storied, to be remembered, to be historic. Is the ability to be able to keep a team on the track for as long as possible and get them to the ultimate goal. It's probably one of the hardest things to do as a coach too, especially in today's era because of social media.
I couldn't imagine doing it once again with a football team. You got the biggest team besides like a track team, like 100 or 80 people. You're like, we must be able to keep that same deal, and we must be able to keep that same standard, which is super hard because everybody wants to do their own thing. It takes a specific coach who knows what they're doing in order to make that happen.
Yeah, I mean, you and I can look at our pro season and even like look at the season we played together internationally, and we had a team of 12 people, right? And there's even turbulence in that situation at times. Like being able to keep 12 people on the same page, being able to keep 4 people on the same page, like throughout a season, that we can like literally look at the season we played together and go, there were matches lost because of a lack of the coach being able to keep stuff steered with the whole group, in a straight line, and being able to gain understanding and camaraderie and, team unity type situation. So to have a team that has 80 plus people on it, plus a staff, plus the outside world looking in on it, plus all these things, like there's a lot of variables to it. So it's impressive, when a coach does have the ability to do that.
That's rough.
It's impressive. So transitioning into the NBA, history was just made in terms of LeBron James and his son being on the court at the same time. If you would have said 20 years ago, LeBron James is going to end up becoming the league's best player, he's going to hold that title for more than a decade, pushing on 2 decades, and that's going to transition to him winning championships, winning Olympic gold, being a primary player, being the face of the league, being a philanthropist, having no really skid marks on his career or like run-ins with the law, and then capping it all off towards the end of his career, being able to have his son not only in the NBA and not only like heading towards the NBA, but on an NBA team that is his team, and then making his way onto the court. Like, what are your thoughts on this whole situation?
Only thing I could think of was face of the league. Because when he came in, I was already a fan of him. I was like, he's for sure going to be the face of the league. He came in and everybody was like, he's the real deal when he stepped in at 18. But the longevity piece, so rare. Most NBA players, by the time 34, 35, is like, there's no way. And he's still in the league, and then you're going to have kids now. You got Bronny, you got Bryce, and you got Bronny coming into the league. They get to play together. Like, that's so rare. I think they said that's the first time this ever happened in the NBA. But I think it's happened 3 or 4 other times in other major sports, MLB, I think maybe NFL and something like that. But it's just so rare, and it's super unexpected. I'm just excited to see like how good Bronny can get, because everyone's just been on him. They're like, oh man, like his stats aren't good. And I'm like, you know how hard it is to be LeBron's son? So like one of the best player ever son, you come into the NBA and you still have so many things to learn and work on. But even just watching Bronny's game, I'm like, you're for sure LeBron's son. Like, he can do every single skill. He's just trying to figure out which skills he's going to be elite at. And it looks like he's already good defensively. And so he just needs to build on that.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, like you said, he's LeBron's son. The IQ is there. The thing you see watching him from the past and the present is he tends to sit back and let the game come to him. He's not one of these players. Like Carmelo Anthony's son is very aggressive towards taking the game. He's like, I'm coming right in your front door and I'm going to score 40 tonight. And you see a lot of players who are like that. They're above the rim. They're behind the three-point line. They're ball handling consistently. He's a player who definitely tends to let the game come to him a little bit more. But I'm not one of these people who like doesn't believe he belongs in the NBA or wouldn't be in the NBA if LeBron wasn't his dad. Like, he's got a 40-inch vertical. He's athletic. In high school, he did great work. In college, his situation was super rare. You can look at the stats and go, he averaged 3 to 5 points, and The man was in cardiac arrest and didn't play for
Legitimately,
like 4
yeah.
months.
Man, it's
Joined
crazy.
back mid-season, early to mid-season, and never caught stride. And so he did great at the combines, which the combines are there to test how do you go in these pressure situations. You get one combine, like you get one day. He shot the best. He jumped out the gym. He's athletic. He's the son of the second best player, in my opinion, of all time. And you have this scenario where if somebody's raised by like a really great coach, you know, they always go, hey, that's a Duke guy. They play with Coach K.
Yeah.
We're going to like him. But like you have the smartest player in the league right now and the second best player of all time in your household on a daily basis, and you don't think there's value in having that? Like, and none of his habits show that he's a silver spoon kid. None of his habits show like, oh, he just expects, you know, whatever comes to him. He's on the camera talking crazy. Like, he's head down, hard work, doesn't say a word, but like competes hard. Like, I really like that about him. And so is it tough for the Lakers because it creates more media around the wrong things? Sure.
Probably.
Like, it doesn't create great media around, hey, we're going for a championship. It's like people call it a circus. People say, oh, LeBron's just changing the narrative and creating stuff. But what person out there in the world who has the power to get their son on their pro team wouldn't exercise that power?
Everybody would.
Name me one person in the world who had that power who wouldn't exercise that power.
And the funny part is, like, everybody ridiculed him for that. And I'm like, but in every other aspect of life, that happens on a regular basis. If
All
you
the time.
own a business, if you're a part of a business, if you're a CEO, your son always comes in as the intern. Your son always comes in and becomes like the next man up. And it's like, wait a minute, well, he can't do that. I'm like, he can't do it because he's in the NBA?
Exactly.
I was like, because last time I checked, any other life situation, your son is coming in with you if you're at a high place.
100%. He's setting a precedent. Like, early on, LeBron James is an impressive player, but his ability to be able to shift the market and make things happen for other people is what's been impressive to me. It's similar to the Caitlin Clark situation. We were talking about before how Caitlin Clark came into the league. There's a lot of hate towards her and a lot of, like, jealousy is the word of, well, we were already popping before she got here. We were already on the uptrend before she got here. Like, why can't you just be appreciative? Like, we have more fans because of her. There's more viewership because of her. There's more eyes because of her. That's going to get me shine, too. That's going to get me money, too. That's going to get me opportunity, too. If there are other people out there who are sports trainers, you know, you and I have chosen to be sports trainers as one of our jobs. If there's other people out there sports training, that only brings more cachet and more ability and more people getting interested. Like,
Exactly.
if you try to monopolize the market, that's less opportunity. So LeBron James comes in, hey, I'm going to make sure players get like brand deals the way Jordan set the market. Other people get deals off that. Anthony Edwards gets deals off that. Jason Tatum gets deals off that. If LeBron James comes in and says, hey, I want players to have more say in where they can go and being able to shift teams, other people get benefit off that. So the people in the league aren't hating on LeBron. Like, there's no, you don't see players popping out, you know, talking out the side of their mouth.
Not at
But
all.
it's the media and the people outside of the media and a lot of fans, you know, who right now there's so many Laker fans who dislike that LeBron James is a Laker guy. And they're like, bring back Kobe. LeBron's making this a circus. LeBron's making this a clown show. It's like, whether you want to put an asterisk on it or not, he did win a championship with the Lakers. Like, I don't care if it's in the bubble or where it is. Winning out of all the teams being in the league is hard.
Winning is winning.
Winning's hard. So, won a championship with your franchise is bringing so much money into your franchise by being there. Like, you don't want to run a situation where you're not being appreciative, and then when he's gone, you're bummed. So
I think his son ended up like having a crazy amount of jersey sales already.
insane.
Like, they're already
Like, you already know what it's going to be like. My big curiosity is he going to get on the court in these legit games? Like, he made it on the court in these preseason games, all great moment, ha ha ha. But when it comes like real time, everybody was talking like, well, everybody was so sure, hey, he's going to have to be in the G League. Like, they're not going to play him. It's going to take a year. I'm curious if he's going to make it in the rotation.
Yeah, I think he might, but I don't see him having a ton of time. I think that other rookie's gonna play more.
Yeah, he's nice.
Yeah,
He's
been pretty good. So I think that he'll have a place in the rotation. I just don't think it'll be high minutes. Maybe it'll be a 5 to 10 minute window. or something like that.
I'm so curious. Like, is it gonna be a regular thing to see like LeBron James Jr. like on the court?
If he shows like being elite defensively, which he kind of showed in preseason. I think there will be a place for him. It's just like, where exactly is that going to fit?
You just got to be able to hit that corner three. That's the, if you can play defense and hit that corner three, there's a spot for you in the NBA.
Yeah.
3-and-D. There's a
3-and-D
reason
players,
it's called
yeah.
that. Like, if you can hit that corner three, like, he just got to get comfortable. He could shoot,
Yeah.
but it's just so much. It's rhythm and it's mental, you know? It's like in any sport. There's a lot of guys who can set the ball at a high level, but can you get in and, like, run offense and feel flow when you're playing against really, like, high-maintenance players? If you're in the NFL, there's a lot of guys who can catch the ball. Can you catch it when it's, like, the third quarter, you get one ball, like, you're running that deep ball and it hits you in the hands? Like, that's the question. It's like, can he knock down these threes and can he get comfortable enough to be like, I'm just like everybody else out here, hit me in the corner.
On
you know,
few opportunities, that's the rough part because you don't have time to get in rhythm. You're not a JJ Redick.
Right.
You're not a Ray Allen.
Right.
Where you're getting
Plays
10 threes.
You.
Yeah, you're getting 10 threes a game where you got time to work in the rhythm. Can you get 4 shots up and hit 2 of them? Right. So I think that's going to be it. But if he proves that he can get some steals and he can get those sleeper blocks, there's going to be room for him to get into the lineup.
For sure. And so what else in the NBA? Teams to watch. Who are you liking right now? The NBA season's getting closer. We're in October.
I'm still my team, Lakers, Mavericks.
Yeah.
I'm still T-Wolves. I don't know. I don't have another team right now, but those 3.
It's so interesting that Karl Anthony Towns is on the Knicks. I'm so curious to see how that's going to shake out.
It's weird to see him in that jersey.
Yeah, it is. I'm a big fan right now of the Timberwolves. Like, Anthony Edwards is just, I'm liking him more and more and more. Like, his charisma, his cachet, I think he's the person who will definitely take over the face of the league in the next couple of years here. I know John Morant's going to have something to say about that. Wemby's going to have something to say about that. Luka Doncic's going to have something to say about that. But it's just, he's got so much cachet, like, and coming off the Olympic team, gold medal, like, got on the court, got burned. He did so much good work in the playoffs last year until they ran into Dallas. Like, I mean, he took over against the Suns. He did great work against Denver, and I want to see, like, how it's going to go in terms of this season. But there's going to be a lot of interesting teams. I mean, the depth of the NBA is getting so impressive. How many good players there are. The Celtics, like, people don't talk about them enough. They're the defending champions, and they're returning, like, almost their whole squad.
The whole team.
You've got the Lakers going to be interesting. LeBron James and Anthony Davis had a great summer, you know, playing with Team USA. They may not have the shooters everybody wants to have around them, but all it takes is 1 or 2 guys stepping up, you know, playing at a high level. And other teams, I mean, you got the Spurs who didn't even sniff the playoffs. Now they've got Chris Paul, makes them a little more interesting. You've got the Denver Nuggets, they added Russell Westbrook, who typically hasn't done well for teams in terms of them having deep playoff runs. Yeah. But now you have one of the better teams, you know, type situation with the Denver Nuggets and Jokic, who's a 3-time MVP.
Jokic,
so
unstoppable.
I mean, people aren't talking right now about Giannis and that team too much, who just won a championship a couple years ago. And even the Spurs, the Suns, like, they're returning that team who's got 3 of, you know, some of the league's best players all on the same team. So 2 of those guys are on the Olympic team. So it's going to be an interesting season. I'm curious to see how it shakes out. I'm very excited. But looking at the NBA, MVP, just like we did for NFL, who would you see in the MVP race for the NBA?
Jokic. Like, there's not really...
Fourth MVP in a row.
Well, if you look at him, it's like, it's weird because he's like 6'10", but he plays like he's 7'5", you know? Like, you're looking and you're like, there's nobody like him ever in the league. The best, I think he's considered like the best big man. As far as like his abilities outside of like scoring, right? He's also a very good rebounder, ridiculously good passer. He's a better passer than most guards in the NBA. So it's like a guy who's a big, who's like a potential triple-double every night. I'm like, I can't think of too many players that are going to be like, oh, yeah, I could do something like that, other than like a LeBron James type. But there's nobody like Jokic.
Yeah, Jokic is impressive. Last year, Joel Embiid was leading the race until he got injured. And availability is a really big thing. You know, the best ability is availability. So I'm curious to see if it ends up being guard or big. That's the biggest question I have. There's too many players right now, and the season hasn't even started to name them. You can preface and say, let's take a look at Anthony Edwards if he goes on a tear. Let's take a look at going back to LeBron James if he really decides to like go to a new level. Let's look at like a Steph Curry if he can even get his team in the playoffs. Let's look at a Jokic, like, and then you have the Celtics side. You have Jason Tatum, you have Jaylen Brown, you have Giannis, you have New York Knicks. Like, there's so many players who could end up being in that conversation. But for me, it's a big question of will it be a guard or will it be a big? Like
Yeah.
the biggest thing about Jokic that's been impressive, although they run the offense through him, like from that kind of free throw line area, is to be a big who's an MVP in today's NBA, where you're not ball dominant usually, and you're not having as much touch on the ball is like crazy. Like we've shifted over to a space where point guards are like a lot of times the leading scorers for teams, and to be able to do it from that standpoint, as I'm seeing, I would like to see a different MVP just because he's won 2 or 3 in a row at this point. And that's not hating to say he can't win it again. If he earns it, he earns it. But I would like to see a little bit of parity, and I'd honestly like to see it, like I said, with the NFL. Is like I'd like to see it open up. There's so many good players now, so there's tons of awards. Defensive Player of the Year. You have the MVP. You have the Rookie of the Year, Most Improved, Sixth Man of the Year, all this stuff. But I would like to see there be a little bit of differentiation for people doing the different skills, like maybe guard of the year, big man of the year, wing of the year, whatever the case.
Open it up a little bit more.
Because we're also in a time where everybody does everything. It's